The arena was packed with 15,000 screaming fans as Madison Pierce took the stage for her sold-out concert. At 28, she was pop music royalty. 3 platinum albums, a dozen #1 hits, and an ego to match her fame. The glittering silver dress she wore probably cost more than most people's cars. "How's everyone doing tonight?" Madison's voice boomed through the speakers, met with deafening cheers. She loved this, the adoration, the power, the certainty that she was untouchable. Between sets, while her backup dancers performed, Madison retreated backstage for a costume change. That's when she noticed him, a man in his 40s wearing a janitor's uniform, quietly emptying trash cans near the dressing rooms. He had kind eyes and calloused hands, and he was humming softly to himself as he worked. The tune caught her attention. He was humming one of her songs, Heartbreak Highway, but there was something about the way he carried the melody that was hauntingly beautiful. "Hey!" Madison called out, her tone sharp. "You, janitor!" The man looked up, startled. "Yes, ma'am?" "You were humming my song. You think you can sing?" He looked uncomfortable. "I just like music, ma'am. Didn't mean to disturb anyone." No, I'm curious." Madison's smile was predatory. She'd had a few drinks during the break, and her inhibitions were low. An idea was forming. Cruel, but entertaining. "What's your name?" David Martinez." "Well, David, I bet you think you could get up on that stage and sing, don't you? I bet you sit in your little janitor's closet dreaming about being a star." David's face flushed. "I don't think that, ma'am. I'm just here to do my job." But Madison's entourage had gathered, sensing entertainment. Her manager, her dancers, her makeup artist, all watching with anticipation. "I'll tell you what," Madison announced loudly. "I'll give you a chance. Come out on stage during my next set, sing a solo. Let's see if you're as good as you think you are." "I never said I was good." "What? You're scared?" Madison's voice dripped with mockery. "Come on, David the janitor. I'll even let you pick the song. Show these 15,000 people what you've got." David looked around at the faces watching him, some amused, some uncomfortable, all waiting. His jaw tightened. "I appreciate the offer, but I should get back to work." "He's chickening out," one of the backup dancers called out, laughing. "Can't handle the spotlight," another added. Madison stepped closer, her voice quieter, but no less cutting. "Look, I get it. You're probably just a wannabe who never had the guts to really try. It's easier to hide behind a mop and dream about what you could have been, right?" Something shifted in David's expression. Not anger, but a quiet dignity that made him stand straighter. "If I do this, will you leave me alone to do my job?" "Absolutely," Madison said with a grin. "Scout's honor." 20 minutes later, Madison stood on stage, milking the moment for all it was worth. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special guest tonight. David Martinez, one of our arena janitors, thinks he can sing. Let's give him a shot, shall we?" The crowd's reaction was mixed. Some cheers, some confused murmurs, some laughter. David walked onto the stage in his work uniform, yellow cleaning gloves still sticking out of his pocket. The spotlights must have been blinding, but he walked steadily to the microphone Madison offered him. "So, David, what are you going to sing for us?" Madison asked with exaggerated enthusiasm. "Nessun dorma," David said quietly. Madison blinked. "You're going to sing opera?" She laughed. "Oh, this is going to be good. All right, everyone. Our janitor is going to sing Puccini." The crowd laughed with her. Opera at a pop concert seemed absurd. Madison stepped back, arms crossed, ready to watch this man humiliate himself. The music started, the familiar opening of one of opera's most challenging arias. David closed his eyes, took a breath, and began to sing. The first note silenced the laughter. David's voice was a pure tenor, powerful and crystalline, filling the arena with a beauty that seemed impossible. He sang in perfect Italian, his tone soaring effortlessly through the demanding piece. The high notes that would break most singers came easily to him, controlled and passionate. Madison's smile faltered. This wasn't possible. This man in a janitor's uniform was singing with the skill of a trained opera performer, and he was magnificent. The audience was stunned into silence, then erupted into cheers. People were standing, phones out, capturing this impossible moment. David continued, building to the aria's famous climax, the sustained high B that had defeated countless tenors. He hit it perfectly, holding it with such power and clarity that Madison felt it in her chest. The note seemed to go on forever, pure and unwavering, before he brought the piece to its triumphant conclusion. The arena exploded, 15,000 people on their feet, screaming, applauding, many openly crying. It was the kind of response Madison had worked years to achieve, and this janitor had earned it in 3 minutes. David opened his eyes, looking almost surprised by the reaction. He gave a small bow and handed the microphone back to Madison, whose hand was trembling. Madison's voice caught. That was... Can I go back to work now? David asked quietly. Before she could answer, someone from the audience screamed, "Who are you?" David hesitated, then spoke into the microphone Madison still held. "My name is David Martinez. 20 years ago, I was a tenor with the Metropolitan Opera. I performed all over the world. La Scala, Royal Opera House, the Met. I had everything I'd ever dreamed of." The arena was silent, hanging on every word. "Then my daughter got sick. Leukemia. I left the opera to be with her, to take care of her during treatment. The medical bills were catastrophic. I lost everything. My savings, my house, eventually my career. Opera doesn't wait for you. By the time my daughter recovered, I was too old to come back professionally, and too broke to do anything but find work wherever I could." Madison felt tears on her face and didn't know when she'd started crying. "I became a janitor because it paid the bills and let me be home with my daughter, and I've never regretted it because she's alive and healthy and graduating college next month." David's voice was strong, proud. "I gave up the stage, but I never gave up music. I still sing, in my car, in the shower, while I work. Music doesn't need an audience to matter. It just needs to exist." The crowd was crying now, full-grown adults sobbing at this man's story. David looked at Madison directly. "I didn't come out here to show off. I came because you challenged me. And I learned a long time ago that when someone doubts you, sometimes you have to show them they're wrong. Not for them, for yourself." He walked off stage to a standing ovation that lasted 5 full minutes. Madison stood alone in the spotlight, the microphone dead in her hands, feeling smaller than she'd ever felt in her life. After the concert, Madison found David in the service hallway, back to emptying trash cans as if nothing had happened. "David, wait." He turned, patient but not particularly interested. "I'm sorry," Madison said. "I was cruel. I wanted to humiliate you for my own entertainment, and instead you showed me what real artistry looks like." "It's fine." "It's not fine. I've been so focused on fame and numbers and social media that I forgot what music is supposed to be about." Madison's voice cracked. "You sacrificed everything for your daughter and never lost the thing that mattered. I have everything and I've lost me. The person who actually loved music before she loved being famous." David studied her for a long moment. "It's not too late to remember, to choose differently." "How do I do that?" "Start by remembering why you started singing in the first place, before the money and fame. What made you fall in love with music?" Madison thought back to being 8 years old, singing in her church choir, feeling like she could touch heaven with her voice. When had that feeling disappeared? "Thank you," she whispered, "and I'm sorry, truly." David nodded and went back to his work. Madison watched him go, then pulled out her phone and made a call to her manager. "Cancel the rest of the tour," she said. "What, Madison, you can't?" "I need to remember why I do this. I need to fall in love with music again, not just performing. I'll be back when I have something real to say." 3 months later, Madison released a new album. No auto-tune, no overproduction, just her voice and real emotion. It was different from anything she'd done before, more vulnerable and honest. Critics called it her best work. And in the liner notes she wrote, "To David Martinez, Thank you for reminding me that real artistry isn't about the spotlight. It's about the love of the craft, the willingness to sacrifice for what matters, and the courage to sing even when no one is listening. This album is dedicated to everyone who's ever been underestimated, overlooked, or dismissed. Your voice matters. Never stop singing. The album went platinum. But more importantly, Madison started singing again in small venues, in churches, at charity events, places where the music mattered more than the fame. And every time she performed, she remembered a janitor in yellow gloves who taught her that the most powerful voices aren't always the loudest, and that true greatness has nothing to do with who's watching. Sometimes, the people we try to humiliate end up being the ones who save us. David Martinez never sought fame after that night. He finished his janitorial shift, went home to his daughter, and continued living the quiet, dignified life he'd chosen. But 15,000 people never forgot the night a janitor walked on stage and sang with a beauty that exposed the difference between celebrity and artistry, between performance and truth. And one famous singer learned that hitting high notes means nothing if you've lost touch with the ground.